The Japanese Grand Prix, the Grand Prix that we've been waiting for when it comes to beauty in a circuit for Formula One, with the Sector 1, Sector 2, and Sector 3 being so well put together. What are the upgrades and what are we expecting here to be brought? Well, let's go over all the pictures that I have and really what's being brought here. The biggest things by Ferrari, there isn't really much. It's not a Singapore type Grand Prix, because everything is kind of being exported from the last Grand Prix. Let's talk about the rear wings as we usually do. Starting off with Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Alpine. As you can see, the biggest thing to note here is that the actual Red Bull wing is a little bit lower downforce than usual. So the car, maybe they're seeing that everybody else is getting a little bit closer. They can't go for a more loaded rear wing. Mercedes also has a medium rear wing. Alpine's pretty heavy on it, and Ferrari is medium. These are huge things to actually note. These are probably kind of the biggest things coming into this Grand Prix, what to talk about, because if the Red Bull is a little bit more low downforce, they're going off of, last year they had a pretty loaded rear wing, but they destroyed everybody. But Mercedes had a higher rear wing last year, and they were way too slow on the straight to even catch the Alpine in the wet conditions. Now, it's not supposed to be wet this weekend, which is, I think, a good thing. I'd love to see a dry Japan, just seeing the cars fly. Plus, I also don't want to be waiting like, what was it, 3 or 4 hours practically for the Grand Prix to start. So please be dry. But the Mercedes car running this medium low. It's a medium downforce wing, and Ferrari's trying to see if the car is finally going to work in a medium downforce setup, because the car has struggled with that throughout the whole entire season. Now bringing that new floor that we'll talk about and go over a little bit more, they want to see if this configuration now works, because this is an important part into their testing, this type of rear wing configuration. Same with Mercedes, they want to figure out if they can actually get it down for their medium downforce. The other 4 teams, Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, McLaren, and Haas. Biggest things to note, the actual Haas team, if you look at the rear wing now in the back of it, they upgraded that like rear parts, they cut it off for the drag. McLaren now has their new rear wing for both Oscar Piastri and for Lando Norris. The Aston Martin rear wing, it's a medium downforce. I mean, this is where the car used to excel in medium downforce, so not really much more to note there. And Alfa Romeo says that these upgrades that they've brought are supposed to be working a lot better on the car here in Japan. A couple of front wings to go over. Let's go over the Mercedes front wing first. First one is they've just kind of updated what they had on the car before. This is supposed to reduce the drag, but also still keep that efficient low-speed cornering. From what they've done here, I mean, it's very possible that it'll do this. It might give them a little bit less downforce, but that's what it's supposed to do. Less drag, maybe a little bit less downforce, but the car should still be in a very good optimal window. This should be a good Grand Prix for them. Let's see where it goes. They're probably going to test both these specs on one on George, one on Lewis. Nothing really more there to note. It's not a significant upgrade. If anything, the significant upgrades for every single team is supposed to be coming in the Circuit of Americas or the Texas GP. Another front wing. Now, when you look at it from this picture, it's hard to notice that this is anything to be changed, but this is the Aston Martin front wing that was supposed to be coming in Singapore. Yes, they did not have a front wing in Singapore without the notes anyways. This is the actual new front wing that Aston Martin has been waiting on. And I'll talk to you about how this is pretty similar to the front wing that they had in the beginning of the year. Let's pull up a better picture, because this one was the first picture that came out, but there's a better one now out. It's this picture right here with the 2 of them. As you can see, there's the top one and there's the bottom one. Now, they're both a little bit different in different configurations. I'm assuming that they're going to go ahead and test them both, but the bottom one is the newer front wing. Now, they got hit with that front wing problem that is now a new TD directive since the Singapore Grand Prix, and this is definitely there to try and kind of combat that, because their front wing in the beginning was flexing too much for the FIA, so in secret they kind of told them, you can't do this. So this is kind of the front wing that's very similar to the one that they had in Bahrain. I mean, I can pull up a picture. They're similar in some cases. In other cases, it's really not that big of a difference, but it can play a significant part if the airflow is now dictated and shifted into a way that's way more preferable for that car, because the setup window for that car is very little, sadly. And that's kind of why the rear tires are getting screwed up, because the way that your airflow goes, if the car isn't catching the air in the back as efficiently and really even bringing it through those brake ducts and cooling off the tires, you don't get an efficient car. And that's kind of, I think, what's happening with AMR. It's not that it's a bad car, it's in a bad window. I hope Japan is good. I'm not promising anything very big here. It's going to be a tough Grand Prix for them. I think so. Before I get into the biggest part of this video, I want to say thank you so much for the support on the channel for the past couple of weeks and just in general. We're almost at 10,000. You guys are genuinely the best, and I'm beyond thankful. You guys are the best, and thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Let's hit that 10K before the end of September. Would be insane. So thank you so much for the support. Let's get into the biggest part of this video. Some other really cool upgrades that I did want to note on was the beautiful helmet that Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso brought here. Oh my goodness. Now these are the biggest upgrades of the whole entire season. These helmets are so sick. The Lewis one with this like futuristic light glow, oh, looks beautiful. Top notch by Lewis, but also the Samurai helmet. Honestly, this is one of my favorite helmets that I have ever seen. It's so slick looking. As like a one-off, it's so cool. It would have sucked if it was like a helmet for the whole entire year, but because it's like a one-off, same with Lewis, like, you know when you just see something, you're like, oh, looks so crispy. This Fernando Alonso helmet is so crispy. It's got his back tattoo also on the back of the helmet, like just absolute fire. They did so well at designing these helmets. And there are a couple other ones. I saw Okan's too, but these two to me stood out. These are upgrades. These are efficient upgrades. As I said, let's bring into the bigger parts. Now there's this like kind of sensor. Albert Fabrega doesn't know if it's a sensor or it's an aero upgrade. I'm going to go along the lines of this is a sensor. I don't think it's anything that's actually noted to be an upgrade. Here's like another picture of it that I guess you can see that's a little better at seeing it. It doesn't really look like it's something that can be efficient for the car anyways. Probably just to note for them if that shark fin is working properly or not. Maybe they'll change the engine cover throughout the whole entire weekend. Wouldn't shock me. They've been going through a whole entire couple of different configurations. But another thing that I wanted to note for Aston Martin, and something that's kind of huge on the car, is their floor edge. I've been mentioning this throughout the whole entire season, but their floor edge is so simple in comparison to the bigger teams. There's still so much on this car to be upgraded. It still really is far off of that whole entire promise that we had. I have a whole nother video being made for that, but it's crazy how far off the actual Aston Martin is to other cars on upgrading and where they really need to be. It's so far off, but just something to note for this car. So let's now talk about the Red Bull floor. This is the old and the new put up onto the screen. Now, they did kind of test it in Singapore, but they didn't use it in the Grand Prix. They're gonna try and use it here for the Grand Prix. They're testing it again. Let's see if it's a problem for them. Let's see what happens with this. It's a floor edge upgrade. It's not like a whole entire completely different underfloor. Maybe some parts are different to it, but not drastic differences. So this is, I guess it could be like a minor upgrade. It's not something that's going to be significant, but it should be enough for the car to definitely be gaining pace and making it a more aero efficient car. Let's see now if it's really working or if this TD actually really hit him. I don't think it did, but something to note definitely going into this Japanese Grand Prix. Now let's talk about Ferrari. This is the biggest team here. Two front wing configurations. Which one will they probably go with? I'm not sure. Both have gurney flaps. They're medium downforce. The one on the bottom is a little bit more low downforce. The one on top is more medium to high. I think they're going to run the one on the top to see how it runs with the underfloor. And speaking of that underfloor, there have been all the pictures out. Nothing has been really crazy, or you can extremely tell that something has changed. Looking at the car, it's the same type of top upper floor, even with the floor edge. Nothing else really to note there. But I wanted to talk about how much of a difference the Ferrari, the Mercedes, and the Red Bull floors are. They all have different philosophies. If you look at the Venturi tunnels of the Mercedes, super short, really right to the point, and they go out right to the floor edge very quickly. Red Bull, a lot longer. They love to extend, but they have a lot of kicks, no simplicity to it. Ferrari is pretty simple, longer Venturi tunnels, but still a way different philosophy to the Mercedes and the Red Bull, and way more simple than both the other two cars. Now, this new floor upgrade coming is supposed to be things that they noted off of the Monaco Grand Prix. That's why I'm pulling up the Monaco picture of the Monaco Grand Prix, and what they can tell off of the Red Bull car will be suited to their floor now. So it's supposed to be a very Red Bull inspired floor. Now that's a completely different aero philosophy on the bottom of the car. So I'm very interested to see where this takes that car in what direction. Now, we haven't seen the floor of the car since really these upgrades. I think there is a picture somewhere from Zandvoort of the car, but it still doesn't look that much different. They still have their same aero concept as usual. So I'm interested to see where they can really take this new floor concept now that they're going off of really the Red Bull concept. It'll be different for the car, but it would be different for the team in general. They need to learn a lot of new things, but obviously this is the best floor concept to go for. It is Red Bull. They're like 30 seconds ahead anyway, so love to hear your thoughts down below. Do you think Ferrari's taking another step up here? Would be lovely to see them up as a pole position again. That'd be a shock to me, but let's see. Please leave your thoughts down below. Please leave a like, subscribe. It'd mean the world, and peace.